Another Digimon game that localizers made it part of the World series when it wasn't part of it originally. And you know what? It wasn't even part of the story series in Japan. It became Digimon World Championship when it was just Digimon Championship in Japan. However, this time it is a little bit more understandable why localizers did that, because it gained the returns to Digimon World 1 roads. But more about it later in the video. Or maybe you already see it from the game footage. Digimon World Championship was developed by Epic, different company, made Digimon game, and published by Bandai Namco Games, now known as Bandai Namco Entertainment, only for Nintendo DS, for which story is basically non-existent. Sure, there are text as emails and intro dialogue, and just that. Which just shares about damage training Digimon to enter the Digimon Championship that happens once in 4 years. Most of the text from emails is fluff. Well, except in the early game. Emails are a little bit more of tutorial or tips. But after these emails, and then it is mostly just fluff emails. Most of the gameplay is just you training Digimon, just by moving them from one cage to other cage, to either train them or heal them. However, it is just making one stat going accurate when placing a Digimon in a cage, different stats lowers at the same time. Thankfully, there is a limit on how much Digimon can lose stats, but in the same vein, which isn't in a thankful way, there is also a limit when getting accurate stats. So you need to pay attention which Digimon hits their limit to switch to a different cage that increase the opposite stat. And of course you also need to feed the Digimon, or heal them from either injuries or sickness. For me, Digimon rarely gets sick. Also, Digimon still takes a dump. But this time it isn't changed this valley, and there isn't a lot. Maybe there is a cage which auto clears, but I'm not sure if it's only clears for that cage or if it applies to all cages. Same with auto fit cage that I'm not sure how it works, if it's auto fits no matter in what cage Digimon is, or only in that cage Digimon gets auto fit. So basically, it is just a V-Bud game. However, that isn't all. Of course, you need to train your Digimon so they can win, and you can control Digimon. So battles are auto battles. Only other battles Digimon L doesn't get restored. Of course, there are some exceptions. Up to date Digimon can be in battle, but it is best to meet the battle requirements with Digimon Hamod. Most of the battles are either 1v1 or 3v3. And because of that, you will need to have a full party to battle, and otherwise you wouldn't be able to do that battle. Turns out you can have a less than a required amount of Digimon in the battle. Because you need to have multiple Digimon in some palace, that means there is a way to get more Digimon. It isn't by battling fall Digimon. It's by hunting them in hunting falls. You rope them around to pull them so they L lower so you can catch in just by touching them. Okay, that was stupid explanation. But that isn't all to be able to enter the championship. Of course there are preliminary battles before championships here, but also you need to increase your team rank to some degree to even to be able to participate in preliminary battles. And it's done by making your Digimon enter into title matches. From where you can earn medals from which you might be able to increase your team rank. Your team rank increases only if you do the same rank battles as your rank. If you win a lower rank battle, then you still get the medal, but you don't increase your rank. And with that, there is a schedule option where you can put reminders where you want to enter into title match. Of course, there are sessions when there is a scheduled and championship events once in every 4 years. Each season is 8 days. Okay, I don't know what I meant with. Only my Digimon could win the championships that we entered into. Championships is 5 battles in a row, but thankfully some health is restored to Digimon doing that. Getting the option to do the second championship takes a long of time, especially when the gameplay is just moving Digimon from one case to other and maybe beating them and healing them. And the battles are just auto balls. Well, to some degree they are fun, but if it's too many then it's tiring. Probably my Digimon still couldn't have won the World Championships if one of my strongest Digimon as a team didn't become a Digi egg before the championship, if I remember it correctly. Of course, in this game, Digimon can become Digi eggs, or just disappear if they don't meet requirements. Unless enough battles are requirements to Digimon become Digi egg, at the end of their lifespan. So maybe if you can beat the game by winning the first championship, then maybe it will be faster to restore the game. Only if you know what you are doing in the second playthrough. By the way, this game is controlled mostly by touchscreen. At first I was confused why the game didn't start and I remember you can use touchscreen. And then I started playing it, both D-pad and left buttons are used to move the camera or check Digimon stats. Because on the main menu there is a looking button, I was afraid it was an online game for Nintendo DS. Thankfully it isn't like that, it's just streaming for the game, whatever the time is. Of course it is kinda randomizer. Okay. No, don't block while I'm reading the script. Of course, it is kinda random events, like someone challenging you and asking if you can let them and take money by exchanging it with money and not getting it back. And maybe other random events. It seems some tips from emails were repeated. Digimon times that were in previous tour games are counted as places invaded data, vaccines and virus types returned, of course, as Digimon types. Digivolution levels are counted as generations in this game. Specifically with this game, it's easier to get burnout from this game. It gets repetitive really fast and you only ever gain the control over Digimon only when training them. I even didn't play it in some days, and it still gave me a burnout. Maybe maybe if it was made better, then maybe I would attempt to reach the championship in the same playthread. But in the current state, yeah, I don't think so. At least before making this video about the game, I won't be reaching the third championships. So sure, there is an option to end the day early, but that means it's less training for Digimon. And the game splitting its works between Pet Simulator or something like that, and whatever Digimon hunting is. It makes out that the game. But of course, if the game wants you to multiple Digimon, then there should be a method to get them. Only I'm not sure if hunting was the right way. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like the video, subscribe and comment. See you next time.